Price to a channel of light fluid. Once again, it's time to go far beyond the world. It's been quite a long time, but things seem to be, I hope anyway, going better for Cale. He's had a lot to deal with, which is why I haven't had any videos to do. But we are here. This is chapter 14. And let's see how far we get. And with this intro played over my narration here, I just have to say, we'll see what happens in the Twilight Zone. As we wait to retrieve our paperwork, faint voices echo over the marble staircase, growing louder and louder with each step, and finally drawing our collective attention. It seems to be a heated exchange, with the magistrate's bellowing tone trumping over a much fainter voice of a younger male. Even the secretary stops her task and locks her expectant gaze with the stares. I don't need a young upstart like you to tell me how to do my job. You might be working for the Grand Arcanist, but I'm still the magistrate. I'm only here to observe. I don't need a babysitter either, especially not one young enough to be my grandson. These incursions have drawn the attention of the king, and the situation is serious. You don't have to tell me that. We're hundreds of miles away from the coast. Unless these marauders are sprouting from the ground like daisies, you should investigate the edges in charge of White Gulch or Freyfall. This is not an investigation. It's just a friendly offer of fresh This is an insult. That's what it is. I've been in charge of this region for nearly 2 decades now. I have the wolves under control. Tiernan is no threat to us. We both know that's not exactly true. Aha, perfect timing. The very person I wanted to see. As they clear the last bend of the stairs, the magistrate clasps his hands at my sight. He rushes down the steps heading towards me, leaving the hooded male behind. His companion is clearly a tiger, wearing odd yet formal-looking blue robes. Before the stranger can pique my curiosity further, the older male is already on me, shaking my hand. Master, Sam, was it? I'm so glad to have caught you. We're having a rather ad hoc soiree. I'd be delighted, even if you join us. Oh, we're just collecting those. I point absent-mindedly to the secretary who holds our folded letters of free trade. The magistrate simply switches his paw at her. Oh, put those away. They won't be needing them anytime soon. We need leave. Ranok mutters sternly, looking to me in slight confusion. Nonsense. It's already 11th hour. Who would want to travel at nightfall? Much better for you to leave in the morning. The old male smiles awkwardly as the stranger finally arrives at his side on the count of a rather slow and almost theatrical pace. I looked in with curiosity. I can't make out his facial features over the shadow of his hood, but one thing stands out from the darkness. His gleaming, ice-cold eyes. Allow me to introduce Lord Cain Snowpaw. He arrived shortly after our meeting. And ever since, all I keep hearing is the story of a wolf and a human who arrived unannounced from the depths of fabled Tiernan. The stranger utters in a husky but pleasant voice, removing his hood. Cain is a royal mage. It's your urgent business, apparently. Well, they don't need to know that. I would never insult my guest's intelligence. I think that they could piece that together on their own. Crown agents rarely end up in these parts without good reason. Cain concedes with a reluctant nod, while Ranok gives him a rather inquisitive look. You, mage? Indeed, I take it you haven't seen many in your lifetime? None. There's a slight note of hostility in Ranok's voice, and considering his people's history with mages, I decided to divert the tone of the conversation to something more light-hearted, yet equally pressing, for me at least. I'm sorry this might seem a bit forward and impertinent, but I've never seen any real magic. Could you perhaps make a demonstration? The tiger guesses, and I nod with a weak smile. With just a flick of his wrist, he conjures a small icicle suspended above his palm. You can feel a gentle breeze brush against my skin as he does so. Does that sate your curiosity? That's so cool. My excitement and awe can hardly be contained, despite the implied triviality of the trick. I cannot help but bop in glee as the tiger passes the icicle to me and I hold it up to Ranok. Although I'm very much taken and impressed, the wolf has a somewhat troubled expression, looking at the ice as if it were a blade. I decide not to push his comfort zone too much. Instead, I grasp a frozen trinket inside my palm, chuckling as it slowly begins to melt away, tickling my skin. I've never thought ice magic was a thing. I utter under my breath. Well, technically speaking, it's more air magic. What do you mean? An inquisitive soul, I see. Well, it's quite simple, if you understand basic physics. I use the flow of arcane to draw and flash freeze water particles in the surrounding air by expanding it. This trick would have been mighty hard to perform in a more arid place like Kemet. No moisture, no ice. Explains why they all breathe fire down south. The magistrate pipes in. I notice Kane roll his eyes in minor amusement. Either way, enough of parlour tricks. We have food and the entertainment should be here shortly. I had someone fetch minstrels from the bard. I very much insist you join us in the stateroom. Your offer is very kind, your excellency. I stumbled, trying to find a proper way of address. But we really should be on our way. Besides, we've barely been able to find accommodation last night. Well, as it happens, a group of Vanar envoys arrived shortly after our meeting. Ever since, I couldn't stop thinking of our earlier exchange, he says in a kind tone, slipping his arm around me and slowly guiding us towards the archway. Well, you said you've lost your memory and that Lord Ranok here tries to help you get home. That's right. Well, meeting your own kin is the best chance of that you'll get. As for accommodation, this shan't be a problem. Normally I wouldn't do this, however, considering a sudden surge of arrivals, I've decided to host them all here. We have a few spare chambers, just for such an occasion. The magistrate nods eagerly, but I pull myself out of his embrace. I've naysayed Ranok one time too many in the last few days. That's very generous and kind, but... Well, I wouldn't frown upon such an offer, child. The old male says in a slightly harsher tone, shaking his finger at me. It's an opportunity of a lifetime. Not many can boast they were hosted at the Magistrate's palace. And, as I said, if you want to get an inkling of an idea about your origins, well, this slot here is the best clue you can follow upon. He spreads his arm towards the adjacent hall, and I frown. You're well travelled and quite prominent in the Vanheimer society. They would recognise if you were one of their own, perhaps you've even travelled with one of their forward parties. This might not be a matter for me to involve myself in, but I'd listen to His Excellency. The excellent one is right. We should stay. Not much delay. Ranok shrugs, clearly intrigued by the proposition judging by his perked up ears, and thus my main point of contention melts away. See, even your wolven guardian agrees. So, let me take you through. He insists and I finally relent, allow him to walk me to the marbled arch on the reception's right flank. As we enter the adjacent chamber, I nearly gasp in amazement. The sprawling stateroom greets me with a beautifully set-up table, buckling under the weight of elaborate crockery and numerous exquisite dishes. Even the side cupboards seem to strain under the weight of additional food and drink. The glass bottles reflect the setting sun seeping in from the windows and glimmer with different shades of reds and greens. The light show cast onto the wooden ceiling is enough to take my breath away, especially when paired with the crystal chalices dazzling the walls in speckled rainbows. Everything shimmers here with opulence and extravagance. I feel almost out of place. I can count 5 elegantly dressed tigers seated comfortably at different ends of a large table. They take notice of our arrival, rising to their feet. Finally, Your Excellency, we thought you meant to starve us to death. A middle-aged tigress approaches us, giving a shallow curtsy, which offers me a prime view of a rather deep neckline. The dress she wears might be chic, but it's also quite revealing. The idea of a banquet, Lady Wrist, is that one helps themselves to whatever, whenever. Oh, I'm afraid I'm not that loose with my manners, Your Excellency. I've never dared to eat before my host has arrived. But what's this? More guests? Indeed. The magistrate nods, gesturing towards us with an open paw. Allow me to introduce Lord Ranok of Tiernan, his companion, Master Sam, also of Tiernan. And the Royal Mage here is Lord Cain Snowpaw. Dear me, one would think we're having a war council. First human envoys, now a wolf and delegate, followed by a Royal Mage. And you said my visit to the Sticks would prove boring. She leans in the direction of one of the guests seated at the far end of the room. That was over 3 months ago, my dear. Things have changed. The male responds, looking impatiently at a rather giggly tigress on his right. She also seems middle-aged, and by their interactions, I infer they're an old couple. Is this charming little fellow another one from Yorick's party? Lady Wrist focuses on me, clearly noticing me eyeing out the gathered. Oh no, they are, as of the moment, unaffiliated. Unaffiliated? What a funny way of putting it. She gives the magistrate an inquisitive gaze, but the man just brushes it off. Well, I'll leave this to the humans to figure out. In the meantime, I suggest we begin the feast. I've worked up an appetite quibbling with this sharp tool. Oh, do tell. No, another time perhaps. Let us not bore our guests with politics. He shakes his head and looks towards one of the servants standing at the side of the room. Portia, where is the other party? They went to see the gardens, Your Excellency. The young doe bobbed respectfully. Oh, would you please be so kind and fetch them? Of course, Your Excellency. I watch as she rushes to a sizable carved door and struggles to crack it open. For a moment I catch a glimpse of the bright greenery outside. I'm quite curious to see it myself. My attention is quickly returned to the gathered as the mage speaks up. I'm sorry if I came across as rude, but I'm afraid we're not familiar with one another. He says in an oddly accusatory tone to the elegant female, and she blinks in confusion. Should we be? She looks to the magistrate for aid. Well, I'd say you're more uninformed than rude. The older male scoffs, swaying his paw gently towards the noble tigress. This is Lady Wrist. She is visiting us from the faraway Mog Bay, which Tigeron's half is governed by her husband. I wasn't aware of that. Clearly. The magistrate narrows his eyes. The young tiger continues his prodding. That is quite the journey, Your Ladyship. What brings you to these remote lands? Personal matters. I am the guardian light to the Count Costai's daughter. Her enlightenment is approaching, and thus my presence is required. I am only stopping here for a short visit with my dear friends, Lord Mayor and his wife. She nods her head towards the giggly tigress, no less than a amused companion. It feels rather cruel to single me out like that. The magistrate grumbles playfully, and the female smiles, placing a paw on his shoulder. I beg your pardon, Your Excellency. As gracious as the host you've proven yourself to be, we have barely met. I'm certain that by the end of my visit this whole oversight shall be amended. I should hope so. He mutters, continuing to feign offence and leading us towards the table. Once he arrives at his seat, our party stops, with Ranok, Cain and me pondering which of the empty chairs we should take. How exactly are you and Lord Mayor acquainted? The mage almost demands, and I blink. The capital, perhaps? We're childhood friends, dearest. We grew up together at Sunda Khan's palace. Lady Wrist responds nonchalantly. Shortly after dear Claudius entered the Grammaticon, I was sent to the capital. We were reunited within a few years at the academy. 2 brash teenagers. Oh, the mischief we got up to. The extravagant tiger giggles, the first time I realise how well matched he is with his wife. Stuff of legends. My, should I feel jealous? Why, what I've heard, darling, you lack no adventure. A word sound more like a jab than a compliment. The poor tipsy female doesn't seem to notice and simply laughs it off. That is so. Oh, if we met back then, it would have been the end of the world as we know it. Lady Wrist muses theatrical, feathering out her fingers, causing the oblivious female to blink in confusion. What? Why? With you, dear, the party never ends. How would either of us find the time to get hitched and settle down? True, being married to my big sugar plum has its perks. Her giggle resonates slightly louder than appropriate. She reaches for another serving of wine. That's when the magistrate grumbles, fluttering his whiskers. Everything is as it should be. Always. I should be very distraught had we never met it here. My days would be filled with doom and gloom. Ha 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 ha! Oh, your Excellency is such a kind soul. That's when another noble speaks up, looking intent in Lady Rist's direction. You mentioned Count Costa. How is he? His sudden departure from the capital became quite the talking point. Apparently his fortunes took a dip, in more than just a figurative way. A minor court drama, I assure you. I wouldn't pay mine to idle gossip. Court gossip is what I'm interested in the most. Kane throws in, but is met with a rather dimming look from the tigress. Then you lead a boring life, dear. I would find myself a hobby had I been in your paws. The giggly female burst in laughter at the quip, but finally simmers down, taking a dignified sip from her cup. I remember my old state court. It's been a much shorter affair, of course. As I recall, you're almost a resident there. How long have you stayed at the palace? Far too long, darling, but I can't complain. She shrugs, idly picking a bowl of grapes and swallowing one. I stayed at the Pink with the Dowager. She removed herself from the court life of her own accord. Who could blame her? Ever since the past of Elena, the palace is not the same. Not the same at all. It's all the softness was sucked out of it. Needless to say, I was glad to be home. Many share your sentiment, Lady Rist. Well, I find court with all its meddlesome nobles quite disruptive of the governance of the realms. I'm sure you would, as a magic-wielding bureaucrat. Her tone takes a dip, and she doesn't hide the hint and venom in it. But Tigeron isn't just bureaucrats and mages, my dear boy. First and foremost, it is its people. We, the nobles, are far greater safeguards of their well-being than any academy-trained upstart ever could be. But you yourself have been trained at the academy, if I'm not mistaken, judging by your eyes. Only now do I notice the purple of her irises, as they seem to gleam with soft light. Aye, that's no secret of mine. I've been sent there at the command of my father once my talents made themselves known, as so many other younglings were. The academy is seen as a ticket to the better life. And was it? Oh, the incurious and remarkable ones, yes. She shrugs, causing Kane to narrow his brows in clear offence. To me, however, it seemed like a glorified dormitory in the shadow of the royal residence, where one learns parlour tricks to entertain the upper classes. But you are a Rist. Who would you be entertaining? Exactly. The female nods, picking up yet another grape and toying with it. Now you can imagine the futility of it all. I have found that magic is just an empowerment for the small-willed and narrow-minded. It is a means for tiny people to feel bigger than they actually are and rise above their rightful station through unnatural advantage. She says, swallowing the fruit with satisfaction, but her triumph is quickly dimmed by the magistrate's concerned voice. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that statement, especially considering our liege. Oh, don't get me wrong, Your Excellency. The Sorcerer King is a different matter entirely. He commands the dragon soul. He's the embodiment of arcane, and he was born to lead. She quickly corrects herself. But not everyone is a natural spellweaver. And most of the academy-trained sycophants are just that. Mindless minions whose only consolidated prize for their lack of talents is a meaningless administrative post. No offence. She snickers to Kane, but her taunting smile is only met with a cold nod from the mage. It's not my offence you need to worry about, your ladyship. After all, you're still one of those academy-trained sycophants, just without the post. Perhaps. The female shrugs, like worried at a tense exchange. It almost feels like Kane is testing her patience. Or maybe simply standing his ground. Either way, Lady Rist doesn't take kindly to it. But being a lady of my own land, bearing responsibility to my own people, my paws remain full all the same. Flinging ice and fire at the enemy is not what I envisioned for myself. Battle mages, a whole lot of them. Precisely. She nods towards the other female. I'm not interested in battle anymore. I am in magic. I'm concerned with improving the quality of life of my subjects. My powers won't help bolster the economy or build a better future for them. It's a crutch people with few inner resources lean onto. I assure you, there's more to a royal mage than flinging ice or fire. Is there? She poses the question, only to flick her muzzle in our direction. Yes, Lord Ranok, how your predecessors improved lives in Tiernan. Almost a century has passed and wolves still reel from that improvement. It wasn't exactly like that. We both know that the wolves would not stop until... I tire of this exchange. Lady Wrist finally releases an exasperated sigh. Your Excellency, must I really suffer an inquest into my personal affairs, connections and beliefs at your dinner table? Not at all, dear lady. The old male frowns and faces the Major with a stern look. Lord Kane, I think you're overstepping your bounds. You're here to hang over my shoulder, not over those of my guests. I didn't... Forgive me, Your Excellency. Now, let us get settled. The magistrate pats the backrest of his chair impatiently. There's plenty of room. I've instructed the kitchen to keep the food coming until we pass out. Over here, darling. I'd love to have you two just to myself. Lady Wrist takes a seat on the magistrate's left side, waving at us and pointing to the empty chairs beside her. The magistrate shakes his head. Don't be greedy, dear lady. There's plenty of fish in the sea. I want you to entertain the Jarl. Oh, it's not the human I'm after, but the wolf, dearest. We don't have those in the bay. Perhaps I shall prove a fitting companion. Kane proposes. The female frowns as she bit on a lemon. Somehow I doubt it. You royal errand boys are spoiled sports, a lot of you. You can sit beside me, one errand boy to another. Finally, the last guest seated at the magistrate's right side speaks up, pointing to a chair beside him. He's a young tiger, very much Kane's own age, clad in intricate armour and speaking with good humour in his voice. Kane smiles and nods in gratitude, looking back to us. Master Sam, Lord Ranok, there are 2 seats right beside. He indicates the chairs next to him, and I nearly leap at the offer. Well, welcome outside, they should stick together. I mutter to Ranok in a hushed tone, and the wolf scoffs. Doesn't seem like you're that unwelcome here. Where are my manners? Our host pokes himself in the forehead and places his paw on the arm of the youth beside him. This is my son, Arathan. He is the Lord Commander of our city watch. He says in a proud, fatherly tone. On the other side of the table are our esteemed Lord Mayor, Claudius, and his ever-beautiful wife, Atia. The bubbly female squeals like a schoolgirl and shakes her finger teasingly. Your Excellency is such a flatterer. I only speak the truth, my lady. Now it is I who feels rather cruelly singled out. Lady Wrist mutters in feigned defence, taking a shallow sip of wine. Forgive me, my lady. I'm just blinded and starstruck. With both of you in the room, it's like sitting amongst constellations. Dear me, Your Excellency certainly knows how to make a female feel appreciated. The magistrate takes a gentle bow and he turns to face us, pointing to the last stranger at the table. And finally, allow me to introduce Lord Graki. He's a personal friend and a confidant of mine. You do me kindness, Your Excellency. Now, with formalities out the way, let's fill our bellies. The old tiger rubs his paws excitedly. I find myself unable to break gaze from extravagant male. The lavish fabric he wears, his eyes adorned like a tail feather exotic bird. It's almost too much. Oh dear, the young master is staring at me, the Lord Mayor says, his eyes twinkling mischievously. I bet it's my strike and makeup that caught him by surprise. He almost purrs, evidently thrilled at the thought, and I stammer. Can you blame him? I, myself, am spellbound. Lady Wrist interjects, her brows narrowing in a slight amusement, which tugs at the mayor's attention like a magnet. It's a new fad that has swept the capital. He boasts, running his paw through his lush mane. Males of higher status need to look the part. Indigo with ground quartz, this is, to add some sparkle into the eyes. You look ravishing, darling. His wife cuts in, her paw affectionately patting his, and their noses meet for a near nuzzle, a tender moment of spousal support. Thank you, dearest. Lord Mayor responds, his gaze softening for a fraction of a second. Another madness. His Excellency grumbles, shifting uncomfortably in his ornate chair. It won't last a year, mark my words. You said the same thing about the bold new patterns, and yet here we are. Lord Mayor splays his paws, listening a snort from his friend, who takes a short sip of wine before retorting. And you are indeed. You look just as ridiculous now as you did then. I almost confused you for a tapestry once. I snort at the comment and continue to watch their exchange with growing intrigue. They seem playful enough, but there's an undeniable tension beneath the surface. Before the conversation devolves into a battlefield, the chirpy Lord Mayor splays his paws in surrender and chuckles. The difference between poor Ambassador and moi, he muses, pulling himself up in the chair, is that he lacks taste while I have an abundance of it. His Excellency finishes for him, their eyes lock in mischievous showdown. You're not short on confidence either. You didn't complain when I had my tailor bedazzle your drab-old coat. The Mayor flashes his brows, causing his friend to clear his throat in a momentary fluster. Well, one must keep up with the times. I, too, must look the part. You look distinguished, Your Excellency. Lady Wrist affirms, her tone tinged with unmistakable warmth. You remind me of our liege, a spitting image of sternness and austerity. Lord Mayor shoots back, prompting Kane to nearly choke on his drink at the remark, while Lady Wrist replies coolly. How witty you are, Claudius. Would you really say that to our liege's muzzle? I have, on multiple occasions. The extravagant male flashes his brows, only to frown impishly. Alas, to no avail. He's stubborn as always. Without Elena's guiding paw, I fear Tygon is hopelessly ill-equipped for the world of fashion and trend. The mayor's wife chimes in. Oh, perhaps his priorities lie elsewhere. I recall a term coined at court for nobles who dabble in excess. What was it? Lady Wrist pokes her chin playfully, allowing the magistrate to contribute. Frou-frou fanfarons? That's it. She pops her finger with satisfaction. Thank you, Your Excellency. No trouble at all. Our host responds humorously. Especially when our dear friend serves as a daily reminder. I might be frou-frou. Lord Mayor drawls, leaning back in his chair, locking a challenging gaze with his counterpart. But I am no fanfaron. Yes. The magistrate chuckles. Modesty becomes you with every passing day. They all share a curt laugh. The mirth quickly evaporates when our host fixes his eyes on the ornate diadem to adorn the heads of the Lord Mayor and his wife. Each an intricately crafted piece sparkling with gems that seem to capture and imprison the candlelight. What's with the tiaras, anyway? He asked the flamboyant male, his brow creased with doubt. At first I thought it was some occasion I wasn't aware of, but you two have been wearing those for a whole week now. Lady Wrist, never one to pass up an opportunity for intrigue, leans forward, her eyes glowing with curiosity. I was about to pose the same question, but thought it rude to ask. Lord Mayor, however, looks as though he's waiting for this very moment, and shrugs theatrically. It's the Khan's initiative, restoring the traditional insignia of high-ranking officials. As he's pulled out from the treasury, I hope you don't mind. Sunda Khan? His Excellency snorts, voice heavy with contempt. Here's a perfect ponce. I've never seen a more vain tiger walk this earth. He might as well have been born a lion. I wouldn't take cues from him if I were you. Lord Mayor's humour abates for a moment, and his mouth opens as if to defend his choices. Then he seems to have changed his mind. The cheeky smile reappears on his muzzle. Sends a good signal, does it not? He retorts, listening to an amused chuckle from our host. What it signals is your growing detachment from reality, dear friend, so though we're moving back in time. He laughs, at which Lady Risk can't help but join in, her voice dripping with faux concern. Those heavy pieces trouble your necks, darlings. It must be murder wearing that much gold. But the mayor waves a comment away as though it were an errant fly. Oh, pish, it's not that heavy. It only looks so. It is a very thin sheets, mind you. Lady Risk raises her eyebrows, the corners of her mouth curling upward ever so slightly. Well, as long as they're thin, I guess that makes it all right. She responds, her voice laced with enough sarcasm to cut glass. How about we redirect our attention to the meal at Paw? So far I've been chewing only on these grapes. Lord May's wife shakes her goblet, sloshing the deep scarlet within to everyone's amusement. Ironic laughter fills the air, yet an odd weight settles over me, one I can't easily shake off. Beneath the veneer of bantering cosmetic trends, I sense subtle tests of power and shifting allegiances. It's as if every word and action were calculated moves in a high-stakes game I'm only beginning to understand. A game where diadems and clothing weren't mere adornments, but statements, ones that could win favour, or just as easily alienate your allies. My only hope is I'm dressed for the occasion. Trying to banish my worries, I decide to follow the bubbly female's advice and focus on the beautifully set table. The food is piled high in front of us and tempts with both the smell and presentation. Everyone seems to be helping themselves to whatever, and we exchange confused looks with Ranok. I'm completely lost what to start with. That's when Kane leans in, almost as if reading our mind. I'd start with tomatoes. They're quite tasty. And they would be? Over here. He points to a plate stacked with small green parcels. Those are savoury ones, beef, buckwheat and onions wrapped in a vine leaf. The tiger then nods towards a plate of similar green parcels covered in white sauce. Over there you have the sweet ones. Usually it's goat's cheese with honey and chopped nuts, drizzled with sweet yoghurt. Oh my. Wolf, don't eat leaf. Oh, come off it. It's not like I haven't seen you eat your greens. I chuckle, elbowing him teasingly and placing a savoury roll each on our plates. Ah, not a sweet tooth, I see. On the contrary, I'm just used to eating dessert after dinner. And quite right. The Major nods his head merrily in agreement and feigns a toast. Noticing our glasses are empty, he quickly grabs a bottle and fills them up. We bob our cups merrily and take a sip, while I mine out the dish in front of me. Ranok is exaggeratedly reluctant, toying with the plate and sniffing as if to make sure it's not poison. I, on the other hand, display a much greater trust in our host and follow the spirit of adventure, taking half the parcel in one bite. The filling crumbles apart in my mouth like a well-cooked pie stuffing, while the leaf provides both tang and texture. It's an experience, that's for sure, but I don't think I would go for seconds just yet. It feels dry, almost as if missing sauce. That's why I noticed Kane wash it down with wine. Having one more bite left, I try this approach, and to my surprise it works. I've got to ask, what drinks do you prefer, my friends? Ale. Ranok responds almost immediately, drawing a frown from the magistrate's muzzle. I'm not sure what he's complaining about. The wine is lovely. I'm afraid we don't have it in the palace. But I know wolves are fond of the moonshine. We do have some high-quality vodka that could be to your taste. Yes, I think that would be fine. I nod, looking at the wolf with a weak smile. Spirits is something both of us are used to by now. The magistrate waves a paw towards the remaining 3 servants, who stand to attention in the corners of the room. They quickly rush towards the cupboards to pick up various bottles and diligently begin to fill up small crystal shot glasses. I smile at the familiarity of the vessel. I think I've done at least a few shots in my previous life, although with whom and the occasion for it eludes me. One thing's sure, I've been in a company such as this. Once everyone has their glass in pour, the magistrate grabs his and stands up, initiating a toast. Following with the guests, we take hold of ours and stand up as well. Very well then, to good health, the magistrate proclaims, raising his glass, and we all oblige. To good health! I blink in surprise at how smoothly the vodka washes down my throat. It's almost like spicy water. Very little bitterness or burning, just a bit of a bite. I look to Ranok with a smile, who, equally amazed, inspects the glass. "Oh, that is marvellous, Your Excellency. Utterly delightful." Lady Wrist voices our thoughts. "Is it local?"
"Oh no, our locals couldn't distill a good spirit to save their lives. Brewmasters and ale-makers, the whole lot of them."
The magistrate draws a bout of laughter from the gathered.
"I'm importing this directly from Amiron. The magistrate there is an old friend of mine. He never fails to lift my spirits each season."
"Literally? I shall look into importing myself then. My husband will very much enjoy it."
"Enjoyment often leads to indulgence."
"What is life without indulgence, dear lord? But alas, you bankers are used to save money, not spending it." The female bops a glass in the direction of an otherwise stoic and dignified male, when Portia returns in the garden with a surprisingly large group of humans. First enters a bulky man in his 40s, with long dark blonde hair and well-groomed beard. He's handsome in a harsh, brutal sort of way, many scars dotting his perfectly sculpted body. He's attractive, dangerously so. I decide not to rest my gaze on him much longer. Instead, I focus on a youth entering behind him. It's a slender-looking boy, about my age I think, perhaps in his late teens. His blue eyes immediately lock on me, and I try not to appear too intrusive. Finally, last to enter is an older gentleman in an elaborate leather coat and fancy cap. He's not exactly in the winter of his life, but if I were to guess, I'd say he's halfway through his 60s at the very least.
"There they are. Welcome once again. Now please be seated."
The magistrate stands up and bids them to join us.
"Our gardens are absolutely wonderful, Your Excellency. They match many finer home in Tigeron with their beauty."
The older man speaks in a polite tone, yet somehow concatly struggles with the language.
"Thank you, Master Dagalan. It means a lot coming from you." Dagalan here, of those unfamiliar with his name, is a historian.
The magistrate announces the rest of us.
Governor of the Royal Commission, the Sorcerer King himself. He's travelling with his fellow kin back to the capital.
Weren't you the one present at Lion's Landing when the truce was signed?
Indeed, Your Ladyship.
Dagalan nods, taking a seat opposite Ranok. So, 6 months ago in Euron, then the other side of Avalon, and now back again. You run quite a tight schedule, my good sir.
Yeah, the crossing. I heard it's half decent nowadays. Yeah, it depends on the captain and his ship. I've travelled on a Felinian frigate. A fine vessel she was, still took us 3 weeks more than expected to cross.
Why was that? The maid looks at him with genuine curiosity, dunking his lips in wine.
I encountered a still spot. Not a gust of wind to be had for weeks.
Yeah, me. So you ended up stranded?
Oh, well, so. The currents will push us back towards Euron. But we are well provisioned, and it gave me time to work in my cabin.
I see you're an industrious man.
No other way to be.
Both exchange cordial looks and pop their glass in mutual agreement. Doesn't life on the move become bothersome after a while?
Not at all. Most kin are born and buried in the neck of the woods, never to see even a glimpse of the world beyond.
I find myself extremely privileged to travel as much as I do. I can see by the corner of my eye that Ranok's attention fixates on the elder, and a smile appears on his muzzle. After all, travel is his dream.
Oh, well said.
The handsome man agrees, much to my wolf's approval.
Nothing like exploring the world, though, before we fade into nothingness. Everyone, this is Jarl Yorick of Nidros.
The magistrate addresses once again, introducing his other guest. His voice is brimmed with joy and the human bows gracefully.
Here's the right hand of the High King Hilden of the Broken Isles. A hero of the battlefront and a personal friend of the Sorcerer King. Rarely such a distinguished guest graced my table.
Please. Less pomp, I beg you. Yorick holds up his hands in clear embarrassment.
I'm just a soldier, that is all.
My son wrote to me for exploits with great admiration.
I'd say you're selling yourself short, my friend.
A warrior does what a warrior must. The rest is irrelevant. Again, Ranok gives a silent nod of approval. I can't but admire the new arrival. Still none of them look remotely familiar, and any pipe dream of them having an inkling to my past vanishes in a proverbial and very apt puff of smoke. Not that I expected otherwise. On a side note, I don't know why, my mind feels oddly alert to everything happening around the table. It's as if I wouldn't be able to switch off in the conversation, even if I try. Odd. Everything seems so sharp and clear. How long have you been a Jarl? Lady Riss poses an idle question. All I can do is stare at the kid seated in front of me. But a year, dear lady. And how do you find this new position? Challenging, but also rewarding. There's an undeniable satisfaction seeing the fruits of one's labour, especially if they're enjoyed by the people one serves. I've spoken like a true leader. I try to avert my eyes from the youth in front of me. For some reason, his bashful glances fluster me. The Tiger Noble, who so far sat comfortably in his chair, suddenly stands up. Anyway, now you're all together, I want to extend sincere apologies to you, Your Excellency, on behalf of Tiberius. My brother has departed the capital on an urgent business and therefore cannot be present. Oh, that's quite all right, dear friend. The magistrate waved his paw dismissively. I understand your enterprise is most demanding. Since he's gone on such short notice, I assume there's trouble in the Imperial Treasury. Should we expect new taxes? I'm afraid I wouldn't know, but if the Sorcerer thinks they need a coin, I'm sure Tiberius can alleviate his troubles without reaching into our pockets. Oh, lights be willing. Nothing needs more petitions on my doorstep. All right, thank you, Case. It's good to have your assurance. In fact, on this note, I had a request to make of you. Lord Ranok entrusted quite a sum of gold with me, and I would need it liquefied. It shouldn't be a problem. I was given full control in Tiberius' absence. I can get funds ready first thing tomorrow. Perfect. The magistrate nods, looking at us with a determined gaze. You can trust Lord Graki. He's one of the most talented financiers in the realms. Not only he'll provide you with hard cash to spend, he'll make sure your people's assets work for you, instead of being locked in a vault. You mean he'll invest it? I ask, drawing surprised glare from the financier. Isn't that a bit risky? Risky? Graki never lost a coin if they could help it. The magistrate laughs. They are financial wizards. All they need to do is clap their paws and piles of money appear seemingly out of nowhere. Not exactly as simple as that, but your money will be safe with me, you have my word. Yes, Master Sam, you can rely on him, my friend. I give Ranok a wearied look. To my surprise, the wolf smiles towards the Graki tiger. I believe, Treasure Lord. His father made coin for my father in past. Yeah, that's all right. We still do have an account for Varrock. As you mention it, I might need to pen him a letter before your departure, but please, no need to call me a lord. I'm merely a banker. I don't trust anything he says, dearie. False modesty through and through. Lady Riss finally switches her paw tauntingly, causing her financier to frown. No, really. Yours is one of those powerful families in Avalon. You might have landed titles, but your vaults eclipse those of many a kingdom. Landlords of the monarchies, I'd call them. Bankers, not so much. She clicks her tongue impatiently, listening intently to their exchange, nibbling on various appetizers to distract myself from any potential drama. I enjoy some thin dried pork sausages, which resemble broken twigs. But I think that stuffed olives grew on me the most, as they pair well with the wine and cheese. Please, no need to be so vulgar, Lady Riss. I always find it amusing how those drowning riches pretend to find the subject of money beneath them. I prefer dry honesty. You could have bought me, the magistrates, all of Tina, and half the content on auction if you willed it so. If only they were on sale. The male grumbles, sinking back into his seat. He clearly doesn't suffer this crude exchange well. The Riss woman doesn't take the hint. Everything has a price, Case. It's just not always expressed in coin. The mag does not take the bait, and the tortured exchange comes to an end. I focus on the arrangement of dishes in front of me, and quickly eye out a plate filled with honey-glazed buns. As I reach out, my hand accidentally bumps into that of the kid sitting in front of me. Sorry, go ahead. He mutters an awkward voice for startled youth of a family gathering. Can't help but smile. This was me just a few weeks ago.
See, Finn? It's just old cocks and soggy balls. You finally have met your peer.
His father says in a bombastic voice, adding more mortification onto his features.
A fine strapping lad, your son. I'd make good friends.
The magistrate throws in, bopping his head between us, and almost mimicking Finn sinking into the chair.
Two peas in a pod, as they say.
The scholar adds in.
Once we mingle, we should give them a chance to get to know each other. That was my intention.
The magistrate smiles widely.
After dinner, we'll have entertainment in the garden.
Oh, what fun! Lady Riss takes a satisfied sip of wine. I can hardly wait to make a few acquaintances tonight myself.
Well, as long as I'll get to command most of your time, dear lady.
Oh, I wouldn't dream to neglect my host. They exchange a cordial chuckle, where I turn to my meal, locking an embarrassed gaze with Finn one more time. He shrugs apologetically as if any of this was his fault. I just shake my head. From the get-go, this was a setup. The magistrate is fixed on finding a connection with me and Yorick's party. I also feel we've been played in some way when it comes to the Royal Mage. I think the magistrate uses to undermine Kane's mission here in some shape or form. I honestly don't care. Free meal and a bed don't come cheap. I have to admit, the food seems more sophisticated, despite the fact most of what they serve is readily available back at the village. Well, a side of saffron rolls. I don't know what saffron is, but tastes and sounds expensive. As an awkward silence protracts over the room, eventually the magistrate breaks it by addressing the fancy male on this side of the table.
Oh, Claudius, anything the matter? Oh, we didn't take our earlier teasing to heart.
What? Oh, I know, it's not that.
Oh, what is it, friend? You've barely spoken a word since that unfortunate exchange.
Never mind him, Your Excellency. He's just grumpy because of some missing sheep. Oh, he keeps babbling on about them. One think it was lodged at a farm.
Sheep?
The magistrate blinks, while the handsome human looks around the table with clear hunger in his eyes.
Oh, I'd love some mutton. Do we have any? I'll make sure that we do.
Our host states sternly, looking towards the dough.
Portia, go to the kitchen's order and prepare a lamb. We'll feed our guests well tonight.
Right away, Your Excellency. The dough bops again. She's gone behind one of the side doors. Although reminiscent of the bunnies at the feast, their relationship seems to be built on respect.
A gracious host you are, Your Excellency. Well, I can't have you travel away the king and complain of your poor reception here now, can I?
Speaking of reception, can't help but notice it's getting grander and grander.
Our company grew significantly when we took the air. Perhaps an introduction would be in order. Indeed.
The magistrate nods, looking towards us and extending his paw.
This is Lord Ranok of Tiernan. He's coming in a diplomatic character. While Lord Kane here, if you'd believe it, is a much less welcome sight than the wolf.
How so? He's here to oversee our dear magistrate, because the king thinks he's been very naughty when no one's looking. Lady Riss purrs teasingly, much to the Jarl's amusement.
Pilfered imperial coffers, eh? Of course not.
The magistrate scoffs, causing the human to flash his brows.
Well, even if you did, it's a mad overreaction. It's like a Hygon's penniless.
Are you suggesting the corruption should be overlooked just because the purse is big enough to bear it? Dear me, the sheer impertinence. Excuse me. You shan't be excused. You're accusing our host of lining up his pockets at his very own dinner table. Had this been a century past, you'd be whipped through the streets. Lady Riss pipes in between shallow sips to a wine, causing the mage to wince. It's not like that.
How else would you put it?
I'm merely here to...
What about the young lad?
The Jarl cuts the argument off, looking at me with clear curiosity. I nearly blush.
Haven't heard much about him yet.
Even his intensive stare feels as if he's undressing me with his eyes. Or I'm just that pent up. God only knows.
He's in Lord Ranok's service, repaying a debt for a life saved.
How interesting.
Ah, noble. Debt is a debt. True men respect that. I've always said that paying one's dues is a mark of principled character.
An unsurprising stance for a banker.
Again, Lady Riss pitches in. The Jarl ignores her. And yet, I couldn't agree more. Rules are there to be abided. Only people of weak character try to weasel their way out of an obligation. I'd love to hear the details of the story. Aye. Not much say. Human hurt, I help. Now he helps me.
Ranok speaks up, looking at me with worry, and I give him an encouraging smile. His speech, although received well by most, seemed to amuse Lady Riss, who chuckles softly. How quaint. He does try, bless him. Targaryen's not the easiest of tongues.
Yeah, I should know. Took me a few decades to master it.
The Jarl comes to my wolf's defence. And you speak it beautifully, darling. One can hardly discern you from a faraway backwater.
You do me kindness, your ladyship.
The light even in the face of veiled insults. Even I noticed she didn't use his honorary title. He's quite the man.
I should hear Master Sam speak.
The magistrate diverts the attention to me, and I shudder.
He wills it if he was born to it.
Well, now, I must hear that. The comment sounds more challenging than anything.
Come on now, speak up, lad.
I don't know what to say, other than I'm extremely grateful for being in such an exalted company.
My word, it's as if I heard a tiger speak.
The older man gasps, looking at me with now familiar astonishment. Even the Jarl is taken aback.
Yeah, impressive.
And uncanny. Lady Riss, however, seems not so amused. I decided to preempt any further comments by showcasing my alertness to conversations around me. I'll take it as a compliment, my lady. Is the Mog Bay far? This takes the female by surprise. She forces a prompt reply. 300 miles? 4? I don't know, darling. It's awfully far. We've been stopping every few days. I've departed shortly after the equinox. I assumed she meant the autumn one, which would mean late September. So, 5 months on the road. Oh, no, love. I wintered in the capital. She laughed it off awkwardly. For the rest of the time, I've been cramped in the coach. That's as much as I can tell you, boy. That's awfully far. I must have some more into my words, which seems to flatter the female. It is, but I haven't walked the distance, which is something I expect you did. Sitting company in a coach is hardly something worth bragging about.
The Count must be awfully close for you to waste so much time and energy to get to his daughter's enlightenment.
Lord Raki pitches in, quickly souring the mood. I wouldn't know, dear lord. I'm not a banker. I don't qualify my relations to profits made. I just do what needs to be done, what's socially expected of me, and I can reasonably bear. She quips quite sharply, quickly redirects her attention back to me. I applaud your manners, boy. I really do. Those are oft the hardest to master. But please, let us use correct addresses. I'm not your lady. You don't owe allegiance to me. Sorry? I look to her confused, and the female sighs. It's all quite easy. When referring to me, you simply say, your ladyship, and we'll all have much better time of it. I'm afraid I'm still confused. He is your lord. Your allegiance to him. She boffs her head towards Ranok. I'm just a lady of a faraway realm you have no connection to. I'm not your lady. I'm her ladyship. Do you understand? I nod reluctantly. I'm still not sure why it's so important they've then put me in my place, but thankfully Lord Mayor saves me the hassle of responding.
What's the matter? Why are we wasting our time on linguistics?
Quite right. It's a feast, not a court hearing. His wife giggles, hushing the mayor down. Indeed. Seeing this, Lady Riss nods, placing a thin slice of some pastry onto a plate. This is marvellous. Bravo to the cook. She moaned in almost obscene satisfaction after taking a forkful, drawing attention of the gathered. I can't remember the last time I had such masterful phyllo.
I must agree. Perfect ratio of pastry and filling. Very moist. Oh, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
The magistrate nods with pride and looks around with genuine curiosity. What is it that you're having?
I ask, and before I manage to finish my sentence, Lady Wrist is already cutting a slice of a large rounded pasty and placing it on a small plate, passing it to me.
Here, have a piece. It's a spinach and goat cheese pie. It's utterly divine.
She faces Portia with a gentle expression.
A girl, a blackberry or merry wine, which would go best with it?
The doe clearly feels put on the spot and fidgets nervously.
None, your ladyship. I'd say ouzo would be the most appropriate of pairings.
Yara, girl. The magistrate laughs, clapping his hands with joy, and the servant smiles. Lady Wrist, on the other hand, smacks her forehead and rolls her eyes.
Of course, ouzo. Why didn't I think of that? Fetch him a glass, will you? Yes, ma'am.
Within moments, the doe veers around the table and approaches me with a medium glass filled with milky substance. That's quite a herbal smell to it, I comment, inspecting the drink. That's because it's made of herbs, aniseed, angelica and coriander, among others. The magistrate explains, and I nod to him in gratitude. I'm quite surprised the drink is chilled. Perhaps a neat ice magic trick? I take a sizable sip and grimace slightly. That's the flavour of medicine or an old people's candy.
It's meant to be stepchild, between the bites of food. Makes both go down better.
I bow my head to her in understanding and proceed to do as told. The pie is flaky and the crust crumbles in my mouth, while the moist, creamy filling just makes me feel giddy all over. Don't think I was ever a fan of spinach, meaning I'm quite surprised I enjoyed it in this combination. The sip of ouzo just enriches all the flavours. I have to concede, this is an excellent pairing.
Please give my compliments to the cook. Everything I've tried so far was a massive triumph.
Lady Wrist still revels in her pie, looking at Portia with a gentle smile. Just downplay it a bit, or you'll ask me for another raise. The magistrate jests and we all laugh. The enjoyment doesn't last long, as Lord Mayor, exasperated by our apparent carefree attitude, finally breaks his vow of silence. He pats his paw against the table and looks at the magistrate challengingly. Well, pleasantries aside, this is a marvellous waste of time. Are we really going to pretend like we're just having a dinner party?
Dear me, not this again.
What else will we be having? The magistrate gives a cautionary nod towards the mage, but eludes the mayor. We are a rare quorum. You can't expect us to squander such an opportunity. We need to discuss things. We are in mixed company. That precise mixture is exactly what necessitates this conversation. Now, mister, what are we going to do about those damn marauders scurrying about the countryside?
Come, love, now's not the time.
Lady Wrist tries to calm him down, but he ignores her. Farmers at my gate from dawn till dusk complain about missing livestock. Those wolves are clearly living off the land. And my son is doing whatever he can. It's not easy to cover several hundred leagues of territory with just a handful of militia. Been trying to recruit more men, but with soldiers just returned from the war, there aren't many volunteers. We kept young able bodies far too long from their homes and families. The armour-clad tiger speaks up. I can now see the family resemblance. Even their stripes align. Perhaps it's time we consider a call to arms. I mean, its willful incursion must be stopped. I would advise against that. Kane speaks up in a dry tone, once Lady Wrist agrees with someone.
So would I. History is the last thing this country needs. And arming peasants? Oh, really? When was that ever a good idea?
She asked mockingly. It's about self-defence and defence of the realm.
Trust me, dearie, they are far safer behind these walls unarmed than out there with swords in their paws. As for the realm, it isn't going anywhere, is it?
The elegant male narrows his brows in an expression of betrayal. We discussed this already. Said you understood.
Yes, dear, I understand your reasonings, but I never concurred with the idea of arming the peasantry. You realise that once you arm the unwashed masses, you're not walled off from what's out there. You're walled in with what's in here.
I hate to agree.
When they're all riled up and excited, it's awfully tricky to calm them down. Not to mention they might misplace their frustrations, or worse yet, refuse to disarm. I perish the thought.
Well, people are hardly at the brink of revolt. The magistrate son states. The female just shakes her head.
People are hardly anything until they are something. A tipping-off point often is hidden in plain sight. Irrespective of your reasoning, you'd need the Khan's assent to such an action, and I don't see that as likely.
We have petitioned Tygon several times regarding this issue, each plea falling on deaf ears.
Well, no, they didn't.
The Royal Mage looks at the Mayor defiantly.
Your pleas are the main reason why I'm actually here. I'm to assess the situation.
Century to century, we have hundreds of foreign wolves scampering about our countryside uncontested. No offence to Arathan's efforts, the militia is clearly incapable of protecting our land. No offence taken, I quite agree. It is beyond our manpower and resources.
The armour-clad tiger concedes.
Even private retainers join the hunts, and still the wolves slip our net, and those that are court-proof too much for us to handle.
Well, indeed, my own company is surrounded by one such band. They did not stand down, so I had no choice but to cut them down. The Jarl nods, breaking off a piece of bread and munching on it.
Mad brutes. They see human and think easy pickings. Well, imagine the shot when they crash against my vanguard. Who battled on the way here? Well, slaughtered, really. What he fought in Erin or an undisciplined wolf raid is hardly a challenge.
Yes, May, this is serious. Our roads are no longer safe. Are you quite sure those weren't just local wolves?
I've been to Euron before. Can reckon as a dire wolf when I see one.
He states sternly, bopping his glass towards one of the servants having refilled with wine.
Superiority in their condescending looks is unmistakable. I'd imagine that of Goldman lions. Besides, they're clearly travelling on the east coast towards the forest.
So, what are they doing here?
Mercenary bands, while they pose as such.
Arathan shrugs.
Been slowly sleeping to Tiernan for weeks now. Do you know how many?
Unlike we counted. Consider the volume and frequency of sightings, I'd say 2,000 at the very least. My eyes widen and I hear Ranok choke on a drink. He seems quite startled at this estimate.
This is completely unacceptable. Someone in that damn forest is recruiting the very bastards we've just beaten in submission. Surely this must be breaking the truce in some way.
It doesn't. So far there haven't been any direct hostilities. They're trespassing, yes, but at the same time Tiernan is landlocked. How else are they to get there? And finally, someone speaks some sense. What way to prevent the tribes from recruiting mercenaries?
Those are caught in the crossfire. The wolves can recruit whoever they please, as long as they leave us out of it. We're not our enemies, surely.
Even if you wanted to challenge the good nature of the Horde, 2,000 mercenaries is not the hill upon which the peace treaty would die. Especially not with most of our troops completely withdrawn from Euron.
Perhaps. I'm interested to hear what our wolven guest has to say about all of this.
The armour-clad tiger turns to us and Ranok blinks in confusion.
For me?
Yes, you.
Lord Garaki agrees. Who else has a better perspective on these developments in the very deserts of Tiernan? I don't have opinion. Tigers do as tigers must.
Is one of your tribes dragging those damn foreigners in?
You must have a suspicion who it is, unless it's your very own father, which makes this party a rather distasteful affair.
Arthur, you speak of things you don't understand. The magistrate cuts him off with a soft growl.
I told you to stick to martial affairs and leave the politics to me. His father stands behind this, then. No, my father not.
Ranok finally speaks up.
Vortigern, he employ foreign.
And what proof of that you have? Lady Riss asks, causing Ranok to shrug.
No proof.
So it's just hearsay?
I wouldn't say that.
The magistrate laughs nervously, trying to mediate. The Lord Mayor is having none of it.
You simply trust this wolf-faced clan has nothing to do with it? Oh, it's not like that. Magistrate, hers letter.
I elbow Ranok discreetly, causing my wolf to shut up. The magistrate did say he's not shared this information with anyone yet. Why he keeps it secret, I don't know, but it's not our secret to spill.
A letter? What letter? A personal letter from Ranok's father. It's a plea for trade rights. I blurt out on the fly.
It's still just your word.
It might be just their word, but I trust it implicitly. I have my reasons. I show the Vortigern is the one behind this whole ordeal. Whatever there's done to deal with, that name pops up like a bad case of unsettled stomach. The mayor grumbles, drawing Magistrate's curious gaze. You've also had a run-in with that arrogant wolf? Received at least a dozen letters of kind assurances, at the same time being served an obscene demand to mind my own business. I think we've all received those. The man contained an outrageous loan request. Needless to say, he used it as kindling for my fireplace. Lord Graki scoffs in amusement, and Kane again looks around the room alarmed. I haven't been informed of that.
Oh, look, the Royal Nark feels left out.
Lady Risk clicks her tongue in a faint chuckle.
Welcome to our world, boy. We have no idea what's going on in the capital half the time, and yet we don't complain.
How's Vortigern behaved in your parts, Ranok? Been some troubling rumours of tension. I don't need to remind you how unwelcome an escalation would be. You attack our border. We fight foreign fang and claw. Kill a dozen. Well, if Tiernan's willing to stand those brutes, then who are we to stop them? But again, let us aid them in righting of this menace before it becomes a real problem.
Well, I know.
Kane raises his hand in another protest.
We can give them all the support short of direct aid. Targaryen pursue his policy of non-interference, and my instructions were to ensure exactly that.
Well, this is absurd. Sorcerer King can expect to just sit you like ducks on a pond during hunting season. Well, that's why those lunatics burned down the farmers and brought all the way to Lone Watch and sacked our city. And those were Tiernan wolves. I don't even know what these overseas savages are capable of. Foreign wolves sack Grove, kill Sylvan folk. They owe no honour. Ranok adds in a serious tone, and the gathered exchange worried looks. So where'd your father stand in all of this? Father, he summons Howl. The tribe decides soon.
Oh, goody. Lady Risk grimaces tauntingly. They're like a bunch of scoffing wolves gathered in one place to make a decision. Might as well throw a fox into a chicken coop and see what comes out of it.
Headless chickens, surely. That depends on the chickens.
The Jarl teases, clearly challenging the antiquated concept of prey versus predator.
Definitely was tested when the wolves tried to take his party head on.
Why are we talking about this at a banquet? What does it matter?
The other female issues an exasperated sigh, speaking up for the first time in a long while. No matter a lot of the wolves across the border are falling on hard times. After all, hardship breeds strife, and strife breeds violence. We've been down that path once before.
I'm afraid I must repeat, we are still very much bound by non-interference policy.
Oh, it shouldn't be. Not against the best interests of Tiernan.
Aren't the wolves a better judge of that?
I finally pipe in, drawing their collective attention. Last time a tiger meddled with their affairs, it resulted in a catastrophe. The wolves, perhaps. To us, not so much. Didn't you just say the entire countryside was pillaged? This very city sacked? The Jarl comes to my aid, chewing slowly on some meat. We learned our lesson. Strandbad is now well fortified. Walls might not seem like much, but you don't need much to prevent a band of savages from running rampant through your streets.
Perhaps. But even savages, especially when provoked, can learn new tricks. I add sternly.
Besides, Strandbad might have walls and towers to protect it. There's plenty of farms between here and the forest. Your people suffered enough on account of botched politics, while you, fine lords, hid inside your castles. Oh, well said.
The magistrate nods, but Lady Risk simply shakes her head in annoyance. I'm sorry, I'm getting quite confused here. Is the human arguing for or against an intervention?
Neither.
I shrug. I believe the wolves should be treated as one big monolith of mindless brutes, rather a collective of various tribes with different goals, ambitions, and levels of development. Tiernan is a diverse tapestry of cultures, wolfkin and otherwise.
Finally, someone says what I've been struggling to convey for many years. So, what would you do, had you been in our position?
In order to have any clear idea of how to deal with your neighbour, you first must understand there isn't just one neighbour to begin with.
I looked at Ranok, who smiled at me approvingly. Tiernan isn't one people. It isn't even the 6 tribes that compose it. There's Sylvan folk and different religious customs all bundled together. Only citizens of Tiernan can decide what's best for them. Unless they request direct aid, any interference will just be seen as imperialistic meddling. Hear, hear. True words have been spoken on the matter. I feel much relieved knowing where the human stands. The noble tigress pats the table, giving me one of her rare approving smiles. I'm not sure how I feel about her, but my misgivings have to wait as the magistrate raises his cup in our direction. I wholeheartedly agree. Ranok here came on behalf of his father to request trade rights. I was glad to grant them. Not only is it a step in the right direction to draw good relationships with our people, but also a shrewd political move. Ranok was always a safeguard against any upheaval. Supporting him is just a logical choice.
I've got that Ranok here is meant to be not married, but what's the term?
Lady Riss sucks on a spoon, trying to collect her thoughts.
Mated?
Oh my. The mayor flusters, and the Riss woman waves her paw at him dismissively.
Hush, darling. We both know what you're up to between the sheets. It's a wonder your wife can walk straight after so many cups. Hear, hear.
The other female chuckles, patting the male on the arm encouragingly, while Lady Riss just redirects her attention to Ranok.
But mated is the right term, right, Lord Ranok?
Yes. He responds awkwardly, and she continues.
Mated at Maeve the Arden.
Who is that? Is that someone I should be aware of? I suppose to oversee what's going on here. I clearly have no idea of the political landscape. The mayor snaps, causing Kane's posture to deflate once again. This is my first assignment. I didn't have the time to. Well, it isn't going great now, is it? The magistrate throws in his own jab and looks at the mage impatiently. Maeve is Erkane's daughter, most like the next chief of Arden. You mean chieftainess?
Oh, hush, darling. I can't stand you being sexist. Not this early in the evening.
And what does any of this have to do with Ranok? Kane looks to my wolf with confusion. Do you know anything at all? Or is this non-interference policy nonsense just a ploy to mask your blatant ignorance? Ranok is the future chief of Tiernan. The magistrate states plainly, despite having an inkling about this arrangement, having someone else pointed out so crudely finally drives the importance of it home. Now you will bring the two tribes together, which currently are flanking Gul'Diran. That should be a perfect deterrent.
It's supposed to happen on the equinox, isn't it?
Yes. Ranok almost mumbles in embarrassment. Doesn't seem awfully keen at the prospect, and sneaks apologetic gazes towards me. Yeah, moment then went away then. That will see much change in such a short span of time. How do you know all of this? Asked, confused how this is even such common knowledge. Well, it's a mark of poor leadership being blind to one's surrounding. We keep tabs on all the goings-on in our vicinity.
Anyway, seems like the matters are well in port to sort themselves out. No need to worry. That is the end of part 1 of chapter 14. Would like to do the whole thing in one go, but those you missed a previous video. In the outro I did mention I'm actually suffering from burnout from my job, so I'm kind of pacing myself with the videos, and I kind of reached my limit for this one, but I will try to get back to it as soon as I can, maybe even in the week. I'll see how things are going. I might just do a few bits here and there, and we will have part 2 before too long. I just wanted to bring you this one before, while I could, at least part of it, and then we'll be having more Far Beyond the World as new updates come out. But like I say, I'm just pacing myself a bit, so let's see how things go. I hope you enjoyed this one. It's been nice getting back to some of these characters, and I'm definitely having fun with some of these. I'm just going to wait and see if Lady Wrist has to refer to a handbag. And if you get that reference, you know who I'm thinking of when I'm voicing her. If you don't worry about it, it's fine. But we have more stuff coming up next weekend, which I've completely forgotten now. There is a new VN coming up later in the month. We do have a return to the Minotaur Hotel and some more Dawn Chorus. Bjorn got an update recently, so I'll be doing his route there, and we'll be going towards the end of the current build of After Years. We'll be carrying on with Rowdy there. So there's a few things coming up. later this month, even though I can't remember the exact schedule. My patrons will be seeing that. Actually, by the time you're watching this, they will have seen it because I'm going to post that when I'm telling about the video. There's more stuff to come there. And if you just want to follow me on Patreon, I will actually try and put the schedule available to anyone, not just the people who pay for it. They'll get some little extras with this. And speaking of my patrons, I want to say thank you to all of them. And my top patrons always get a mention here. They are Omar, Rafu, Spiderling, Samuto, Tiger Cub, Ara Amaterasu, Vulpers Need Coffee, Addy Bear, Andy Peng, Aaron Fox, Bastian, Bieka, Brian Hall, Copers Visser, Dissonance, Grizz, Exact, Harvest Mouse Productions, Ida Corval, Evan King, Kartek, Matt Kenya, Mario Cervantes, and Mohammed Al-Zamel. Special thanks to all of those, and thank you to all my patrons, and to you for watching this. Feel free to leave a comment or a like, and we will return to Far Beyond the World as soon as I can, and there will be, as I say, something else on Saturday, which I'll look up what that is and let everyone know. So, until we return to that dinner party, thanks for watching, bye for now.